hello, welcome back to my channel Vijay Biology Tutorials. Today we are going to learn about the process of the digestion, and before going to the topic, please hit the bell button and do subscribe to my channel. So now going to the topic, process of the digestion. Before going to the process of the digestion, let us know what are the nutrients that are present that we take through the food we eat. We know that the nutrients like carbohydrates are present. Carbohydrates. So next we are having the fats, we are having, and next we are having the proteins, and next we are having the vitamins and minerals. Vitamins and minerals. So like this we are having different types of nutrients, and these nutrients we take into our body through the food we eat. But how these nutrients are getting absorbed into our body, and what is the use of each and every nutrient, let us see. Here we are talking about the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates and fats together, these are called as energy giving nutrients. Carbohydrates and fats together, they are called as energy giving nutrients. And the next one is the proteins. Proteins are called as body building nutrients. Proteins are called as body building nutrients, which are very essential in the adolescents. Next, vitamins and minerals are called as protective foods. Vitamins and minerals are called as protective foods. So these all we are taking through the food that we are eating. So now, where do these nutrients will be absorbed in our body? Let us see. Before going to this, so we have understood what are the different types of the nutrients. Carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins and minerals are the different types of the nutrients that we are taking into our body through the food we eat. Now, what is the meaning of the digestion? What is the meaning of the digestion, or what is the definition of the digestion? Let us see. Here, the digestion is nothing but the process of conversion of the complex non-diffusible forms, means which cannot be absorbed into the blood directly, non-diffusible forms to simple diffusible forms. Simple diffusible forms is called as digestion. So once I repeat it, the process of conversion of the complex non-diffusible forms into simple diffusible forms is called as digestion. So what are the organs that are involved in this process of the digestion? The organs that are involved in the process of the digestion are mainly the organs that make up the alimentary canal. So mainly the organs that make up the alimentary canal, and some of the glands. Alimentary canal, and along with it some of the glands also play a key role in the process of this digestion. So now you will get a doubt, what is the meaning of the alimentary canal? The alimentary canal is nothing but this alimentary canal will be starting, means the organs that are present from the mouth to the anus. From the mouth to the anus, all the organs, it will come under the alimentary canal. So here you can see in the picture. Here this part will be the mouth, and this part will be the mouth. So next to the mouth you are having the esophagus, and from the esophagus there is a J-shaped bag, elastic bag called as stomach, which will be present towards your left side. Next, here to the right side you will be having the liver, and in that you will be observing the gallbladder, and the connection of this, the stomach will be joining to the duodenum, and here the duodenum enters into the small intestine. The next one is the large intestine, rectum, anus. All these parts will be coming under the alimentary canal. So let me write in a clear manner. So what are the organs that are present in the alimentary canal? The first one is the mouth, you can say. In the throat region or the neck region you will be having the pharynx. The next one you will be having the esophagus. From the esophagus the stomach will be there, and from the stomach you will be having the duodenum, and next to the left side of this, to the right side you will be having the liver. Next you will be having the gallbladder. Next pancreas, small intestine, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, anus. So these are the organs that comes under the alimentary canal. So mouth you will be having, and next pharynx you will be having. The next one is the esophagus. Next it joins to the stomach. Then the stomach continuation duodenum. To the right side of the stomach you will be having the liver. Next gallbladder. Here near to the duodenum only you will be having the pancreas, and then the small intestine, and then the large intestine, rectum, anus. These are the parts of the alimentary canal. So here now let us read in detail about the each one. So here mouth, if you see, the mouth is having three types of the glands. So the mouth has three types of glands. You know the mouth will be always wet. Why the mouth is always wet means due to the presence of the saliva. Due to the presence of the saliva, the mouth will be always wet. In the mouth you are having three types of glands. That is submaxillary glands, sublingual glands, next parotid glands. So here three pairs of the salivary glands are there. So these are the salivary glands which produces the saliva. Salivary glands. These are the three pairs of the salivary glands. One is submaxillary gland, the other one is the sublingual gland, and the other one is the parotid gland. So here the parotid glands will be towards here near to this jaw area, and submaxillary glands will be present in the buccal cavity. Okay, so now what happens in the mouth? How the process of the digestion occurs in the mouth? Let us see. Here we are saying that the mouth is having saliva, and the saliva is due to the presence of the salivary glands. The saliva is having a particular enzyme called as salivary amylase. It is having an enzyme called as salivary amylase. Salivary amylase. The other name of salivary amylase is, you can call it as tyalin, and along with this it also has the lysozyme. So here the mouth is having three pairs of the, in the mouth we are having three pairs of the salivary glands, that is submaxillary, sublingual, and parotid glands. In the mouth we are having a particular enzyme called as salivary amylase. The other name of salivary amylase is tyalin, and we will be also having lysozyme. What does this tyalin do? The tyalin will be converting, means in our food we take different types of the carbohydrates. Like potato, if you take it, it's containing large amount of carbohydrate, and if you take rice, it's containing large amount of the starch. So the starch cannot be digested easily in our body. It's a complex sugar, we can say. The starch is a complex sugar. So the complex sugars can't be digested into our body directly. They should be broken into simple sugars, and which will be dissolved into the blood, through which we get the energy. So who will do that process? Means here the salivary amylase will convert this complex starch. It will convert this complex starch into maltose. Who will convert it? Means here the enzyme, that is salivary amylase. Salivary amylase will break down this complex starch into, means it's not completely digested here. The carbohydrate is not completely digested in the mouth. Only 30% of the carbohydrate digestion occurs in the mouth. 30% of the digestion occurs in the mouth. Okay, so here in the mouth what do we have? We have the saliva, and here in the mouth we have we are having four types of the teeth. Here we have to learn two main points. That is, first one is, now here up to here, is it clear? Now we are saying that the mouth is having the saliva. Saliva is produced due to the salivary glands. We are having three pairs of the salivary glands: submaxillary, sublingual, and parotid glands. These glands will produce an enzyme called as salivary amylase. The other name of salivary amylase is tyalin. It converts a complex starch into simple maltose. Means 30% of the carbohydrate digestion starts in the mouth. It's not completed. Only 30% will be digested in the mouth. Now, here we have to learn, in this mouth only we will get one process, that is mastication occurs in the mouth. Mastication occurs in the mouth. What is the meaning of the mastication? Mastication is nothing but the cutting of the food particles with the teeth and mixing that food particles with the saliva is called as mastication. So I repeat it, the cutting of the food particles with our teeth and mixing of that food particles with the saliva is called as mastication. Here the food will be half chewed in the mouth itself. The food will be half chewed in the mouth itself, and the carbohydrates will be 30%, they will be digested in the mouth itself. The remaining, the masticated food will be converted into a bolus like structure, means round ball like structure. Okay, so whatever food we eat, we do not swallow it directly. We will be eating, or we will be cutting with our teeth. When we cut with our teeth, the saliva mixes into the food, and this food will be passing into the esophagus. The food will be passing into the esophagus. Here, before passing into the esophagus, so the after the mouth, what we are having the pharynx. We are having the pharynx. So here the pharynx is very important. This is a common passage for both food and air. From mouth, the food will be entering in food and air. From mouth, the food enters into the pharynx, which is present in this region. In the neck region, the pharynx is present, and it's a common passage for the food and the air. So here, we are saying that it's a common passage. What happens here? Generally, we say that while we are eating food, we should not talk. Why should we not talk? Means here, when the food is being swallowed, means that it may take for 3 to 4 seconds, that's it. When we are swallowing the food, here in the pharynx, you have a flap-like structure called as epiglottis. The flap-like structures that is present in the pharynx is called as epiglottis. What does this epiglottis do? When we are swallowing the food, it will be closing the place where the air passes into the body. So, a pharynx is a common passage for food and the air. When we are swallowing the food, the epiglottis will be closing the path. Means if you see like this, if you see here, if the food is passing here, immediately it will, here the flap-like structure will be present. The flap-like structure will be closing the area where the air is passing. So just it will close it for a second, for a while, and then the food passes into the esophagus. And then normally again it will be opened. When we are speaking also, the air passes only, means we can get the sound outside. So here the epiglottis is a flap-like structure that closes the place or the region where the air passes, and the food will be passing into the esophagus in the form of the bolus. In the form of the bolus, it will be entering into the esophagus. It will be entering into the esophagus, a thin pipe-like structure. So here from the mouth, in the mouth, the salivary amylase will be present. The salivary amylase will be converting the complex carbohydrate starch into a simple, means it's not completely converting it, only 30% of it will be digested in the mouth, and mastication occurs in the mouth. The masticated food will be converting into the shape of a round ball-like structure called as bolus. The bolus has to pass into the esophagus. So from the mouth, it has to pass into the pharynx. The pharynx is a common passage for both food and the air. And in the pharynx, we are having the epiglottis. The epiglottis is a flap-like structure that will cover the pathway of the passage of the air when we are swallowing the food for a while. And the bolus will be entering into this esophagus. Here what happens in the esophagus? In the esophagus, there will be no digestion observed in the esophagus. No digestion occurs in the esophagus. So here in the esophagus, you will be having the peristaltic movements will be observed. Peristaltic movements will be observed in the esophagus. Peristaltic movements will be observed in the esophagus. What is the meaning of peristaltic movement? Peristaltic movements means the contraction of the smooth muscles, contraction as well as the relaxation of the smooth muscles that are present on these lines of the on the walls of the esophagus. They will be contracting and relaxation. Means like this, if the esophagus is there like this, so if the food is being passed like this, it will be expanding here, again it will contract here, again it will expand here, again it will contract here. Means like that, there will be the contraction and relaxation of the smooth muscles that are present on the walls of the esophagus for the bolus to be pushed into the stomach. So from the mouth, it has to pass through the pharynx. Through the pharynx, it has to enter into the esophagus. In the esophagus, there will be no digestion occurring, and from the esophagus, it has to enter into the stomach. It has to enter into the stomach. Okay, so now through the peristaltic movement that are observed in the esophagus, the food will be entering into the stomach. The food enters into the stomach. So when the food enters into the stomach, the food is in the form of the bolus-like structure. Bolus-like structure. Here in the stomach, partial digestion of the food occurs. In the stomach, only partial digestion of the food occurs, and the partially digested food is called as chyme. The partially digested food is called as chyme. Here in the stomach, we are having the mucus will be present on the walls of the stomach. Mucus will be present on the walls of the stomach. In the stomach, we have a particular acid called as HCl. HCl, which will be having the pH of 1.8 pH will be present. So this HCl will be produced in the stomach. What happens in the stomach? Here, when the food in the form of the bolus, when it enters into the stomach, here it will be producing the HCl. HCl is the strong acid. So, in order to protect the walls of the stomach from this strong acid, the mucus will be it will be covering all the layers of the stomach from the action of the HCl. What is the use of this HCl? The HCl will be helpful in killing the microorganisms that are present in the food material. Okay, so now the HCl also activates two particular enzymes. One is pepsinogen. Two particular enzymes, that is pepsinogen, and the other one is prorenin. Prorenin and pepsinogen, these are the two enzymes that are present in the stomach. These are in an inactive form. They are not in an active form. They are in an inactive form. In this inactive form, enzyme should be converted into active forms by the action of the HCl. The HCl converts the inactive pepsinogen and prorenin into active forms, that is pepsin, and the other one is renin. Pepsin and renin. Here generally renin is not observed in the adults. Renin is the enzyme that is observed. Renin is observed in the infants who are taking the milk from their mothers. In the infants you can observe this renin. Okay, so here first what happened in the mouth? In the mouth the digestion has been started. There the digestion doesn't occur completely. Only the carbohydrates, 30% of the carbohydrates will be digested in the mouth with the help of the enzyme called as salivary amylase, and from there the food will be converted into a bolus form due to the process of the mastication, and through from there it passes to the pharynx. In the pharynx we are having a flat-like structure called as epiglottis. This epiglottis will be acting like a flap when the food will be passed into the esophagus. As pharynx is a common passage for food and the air, when the food is being passed into the esophagus, this flap-like structures just it closes the area where the air passes just for a while, and then the bolus will be coming into the esophagus. In the esophagus there will be no digestion of the food. Only peristaltic movements can be observed in the esophagus. What are peristaltic movements? Means the contraction and relaxation of the smooth muscles that are present on the walls of the esophagus is called as peristaltic movement. Through the peristaltic movement the bolus will be pushed into the stomach. Here in the stomach there will be only partial digestion occurring in the stomach. That partially digested food is called as chyme. The walls of the stomach are covered with mucus. Why are they covered with mucus? Means here in the stomach we are having a particular acid called as HCl, hydrochloric acid, which is having a pH of the 1.8, which is a strong acid. So this strong acid, what is the use of this strong acid? Means it will be killing the microorganisms that are present in the food material. It not only kills the microorganisms, but it will be activating the inactive enzymes like pepsinogen and prorenin, which are present in the stomach. This pepsinogen, by the action of the HCl, it will be converted into pepsin. Prorenin, by the action of this HCl, it will be converted into renin. Okay. So generally this so now this pepsinogen, what is the use of pepsinogen? So here pepsinogen will be converting the proteins that are present into the food. The proteins that are present in the food will be converted into proteases and peptones. So here proteins. So whatever proteins that are present in the food, they will be converted to peptones and proteases. They will be converted to peptones and proteases. Okay, by the action of the pepsin. Now here means here the proteins are being converted into peptones and proteases. Here prorenin. Prorenin will be, it's an inactive form. This inactive form will be converted into the active form by the action of the HCl, and that active form is renin. Where is this renin present? The renin is generally present in the stomach of the infants. Here, what does it do means it helps in the digestion of the milk. The milk generally contains calcium. Here, due to the action of the renin, the milk will be converted into calcium paracasinate. Calcium paracasinate. The milk will be converted to calcium paracasinate by the action of the renin. So here, this calcium paracasinate by the action of the pepsin, it will be converted to peptones. Okay. So first here, the HCl will be acting upon the pepsinogen and prorenin and converting the pepsinogen into pepsin and prorenin into renin. The pepsinogen helps in the conversion of the pepsin helps in the conversion of the proteins into peptones and proteases into their simplest forms. Next, prorenin, when it is in an inactive form, the HCl will be acting on it and converting it into renin, which is in an active form. This renin is generally observed in the stomach of the infants. So generally they will be drinking the milk due to the action, as it contains the calcium. The milk contains the calcium. In the presence of the calcium ions, it will be converted into calcium paracasinate by the action of the renin. Here again, on this calcium paracasinate, the pepsin will be acting and it converts this paracasinate into peptones. Means generally in the stomach there will be digestion of the proteins will be occurred in the stomach. Okay, who helps in the process of this digestion of the proteins means here pepsin and renin will be helping in the stomach. So here to make that pepsinogen and prorenin active, who will be useful means HCl will be useful. So to protect the action of the HCl on the walls of the stomach, mucus will be present all over the walls of the stomach. Here in the stomach there is only partially digested food is observed in the stomach. The partially digested food is called as chyme. And this chyme now it enters into the small intestine. The chyme enters into the small intestine. Here the stomach is having two parts. One is cardiac sphincter and pyloric sphincter. It is having cardiac sphincter and pyloric sphincter. So here if you see, this is the stomach. So this is the stomach. If you see, this part is called as cardiac sphincter and this part is called as pyloric sphincter. You can see the muscles. This muscles will be pushing the chyme into the small intestine. This muscles will pushes the chyme into the small intestine. So now what happens in the small intestine? Let us see. In the small intestine there will be complete digestion of the carbohydrates will be occurring, protein digestion will be occurring, and fats also will be digested in the small intestine. Here the small intestine contains a particular enzyme called as succus entericus, and here pancreas is also present above the small intestine, and the pancreatic juice also will be released into the small intestine. Pancreatic juice also will be entering into the small intestine. So with the help of the succus entericus and pancreatic juice, there will be digestion of the carbohydrates, proteins, and even even fats will be digested in the small intestine. So now this succus entericus, it will be acting upon the enzymes called as trypsinogen. The next one is chymotrypsinogen. The next one is carboxypeptidases. So here also you can observe the digestion of the proteins in the small intestine. Trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen and carboxypeptidases will be released from the pancreas, and these will be activated by the enzyme called as trypsin. This will be activated by the enzyme called as trypsin, or sometimes it will be activated by one more enzyme called as enterosuccus, or succus entericus, you can say succus entericus. So here this trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen and carboxypeptidases will be released into the small intestine through the pancreas, and here the pancreas will be releasing the enzyme called as trypsin for conversion of this trypsinogen into trypsin. Okay, trypsinogen and chymotrypsinogen carboxypeptidases are the inactive forms. These are the inactive forms. They should be converting into active forms. Who will convert them into active forms means the pancreas will be releasing an enzyme called as trypsin, and the small intestine also releases an enzyme called as succus entericus. These two enzymes will be converting these inactive enzymes into active enzymes. So why are these enzymes necessary? Are you able to understand? Here in the small intestine there will be digestion of the carbohydrates, there will be digestion of the proteins, and there will be digestion of the fats also. Means here we can say that in the mouth only 30% of digestion has been occurred, and in the stomach 50% of digestion has been occurred. In the small intestine completely digestion of the food occurs in the small intestine, because the small intestine is the longest part of the alimentary canal. It is the longest part of the alimentary canal. So maximum digestion process occurs in the small intestine. So here in the small intestine there will be presence of the enzymes called as trypsinogens, chymotrypsinogen and carboxypeptidases. These are present in the inactive form. They has to be converted into an active form. Who will be converting them into active form means here the pancreas will release an enzyme called as trypsin, and the small intestine releases the enzymes called as succus entericus. This will be converting these inactive enzymes into an active enzymes. So what does these enzymes do? These enzymes, they will be acting upon the proteins, next peptones, and next proteases. On these three which have come from the stomach, means which have come from the stomach. So these have come from the stomach, and on this who will be acting means trypsinogen will be acting. Trypsinogen will be acting. Chymotrypsinogen will be acting. Chymotrypsinogen will be acting. Carboxypeptidases will be acting. Carboxypeptidases will be acting and converts this into tripeptides and dipeptides. Tripeptides and dipeptides to their simplest forms. So here the small intestine will be having these enzymes trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen and carboxypeptidases in their inactive form. They will be converted into active form by the enzyme that is released by the pancreas, that is trypsin. These will be acting upon the proteins, peptones and proteases that have come from the stomach and convert them into tripeptides and dipeptides. Now here again after this reaction what happens? This tripeptides, on this tripeptides again, tripeptides means nothing but proteins. So here on this tripeptides again, tripeptidases, this is one more enzyme, tripeptidases converts this tripeptides into dipeptides plus amino acids. It converts into dipeptides plus amino acids, and again this dipeptides will be converted into completely amino acid. They will be converted into completely amino acid by the action of the dipeptidases. It will be completely converted into amino acids. So finally here the digestion of the proteins will be observed. And they will be converted into amino acids. So here the proteins are digested in the small intestine in this way. Here the small intestine is having the enzymes trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, carboxypeptidases in the inactive forms. These should be converted into active forms with the help of the pancreatic trypsin that is released from the pancreas. So this trypsin acts upon the trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen and carboxypeptidases and converts them into the active forms. These active forms will be acting upon the proteins, proteases and peptones that have been released from the stomach and converts them into dipeptides and tripeptides. This tripeptides will be converted into dipeptides with the help of the tripeptidases enzyme and amino acids. Again, these dipeptides will be converted into amino acids with the help of the dipeptidases. Means here the proteins are digested in the small intestine and they will be absorbed into the small intestine in the form of amino acids. Okay, next. So next, here lipases. How are the fats digested? This is an important topic. How are the fats digested? The fats are digested. That process is called as emulsification. The process of digestion of fats is called as emulsification. Emulsification will be done by the bile juice that is produced by the liver. Bile juice that is produced by the liver. Who produces this bile juice? Means liver will be producing the bile juice. This liver will be converting the fats into a simple molecules, simple glycerol and fatty acid molecules. Means emulsification is nothing but digestion of the fats is called as emulsification. Where does the fats digestion occurs? Means it occurs in the liver. The liver releases a juice called as bile juice which helps in the emulsification of the fats. Along with this bile juice, pancreatic lipases will be released. Pancreatic lipases and intestinal lipases, means small intestine also intestinal lipases. Small intestine also releases this lipases which will be converting the fatty acids, which will be converting the fats into will be converted into fatty acids and they will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol, which are the simple forms which can be dissolved easily in the blood. Here the fats will be digested and the process of digestion of the fats is called as emulsification of the fats. So emulsification occurs in the liver. The liver produces a juice called as bile juice. Along with this bile juice, the pancreas also releases the pancreatic lipases. Intestine also releases the intestinal lipases and they convert the fats that are present in our body into the simple fatty acids and glycerols that can be easily absorbed into the blood. Okay, so like that the fats digestion also occurs in the small intestine. The next one, the last one is the carbohydrates. How the carbohydrates are digested in the small intestine. So here the carbohydrates are, here the pancreas releases the disaccharides. Pancreas releases the disaccharides to digest the complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. Like if you take carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, if you take complex carbohydrates will be converted into maltose. The complex carbohydrates will be converted to maltose. So which is a simple sugar, glucose and fructose. So which can be easily dissolved into the blood. Who will be doing this one? Means the pancreas will be releasing the disaccharides. This disaccharides converts the complex carbohydrates into simple carbohydrates like maltose, glucose and fructose which are easily absorbed into the body. So like this, carbohydrates will be digested in the small intestine and as well as the proteins will be digested as well as the fats will be digested in the small intestine. Means here complete digestion of the food occurs in the small intestine. Up to here the digestion has been happened. Then so first digestion occurs in the mouth. So in the mouth salivary amylase plays a vital role. Next coming to the stomach. In the stomach the pepsin and renin will be acting in the stomach that helps in the digestion of the proteins. Then their partially digested proteins enters into the small intestine. By the action of the trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, carboxypeptidases, these are converted into simple proteins which are dissolved into the blood. And from the lipases, due to the action of the lipases also the fats are dissolved into the blood. The next one is the disaccharides. They convert the complex carbohydrates into simple carbohydrates like maltose, glucose and fructose. So up to here there will be complete digestion of the food occurring in the small intestine. Okay, so now after this complete digestion process has been completed. Then after this digestion process has been completed, so next what happens is absorption of the food occurs in the small intestine. Where does it occurs? Means the absorption of the food material takes place in the small intestine. absorption of food material takes place in the small intestine. Here the small intestine is having special structures called as villi. Small intestine is having special structures called as villi. The walls of the small intestine is having villi. These villi help in increasing the space for absorption. So whatever food that has been absorbed, space for absorption. Whatever food that has been digested should be absorbed into the blood. Who will be doing that work? Means villi. The villi also contains some blood vessels. It also contains some lymph vessels. So this absorbed food will be absorbed into the walls of the small intestine, that is villi, and it will be mixed up with the blood. So that is the process of the absorption. So the absorption of the food takes place in the small intestine. The next one is assimilation of the food material. So whatever food that has been absorbed into the blood, assimilation. So assimilation of the food material means nothing but whatever food that has been absorbed by the villi of the small intestine will be mixed into the blood, and this blood should be carried to all the tissues. So there these nutrients will be used for the energy, they will be used for the repair, they will be used for the growth. That process is called as assimilation. Means nothing but the absorbed food material by the villi of the small intestine that mixes with the blood. Through the blood it reaches to the tissues, and there the tissues will be assimilating it into the products. Into the products means which gives us energy, which gives us repair, which repairs the tissues, which gives us growth. That process is called as assimilation. And from there the final step is defecation, or you can say your defecation. Defecation generally occurs in the large intestine. Defecation occurs in the large intestine. Here in the large intestine there will be no digestion of the food. There will be no digestion of the food will be observed in the large intestine. Only defecation means whatever food that has been undigested in the small intestine, that will be pushed into the large intestine. Means all the undigested food will be coming to the large intestine. So in the large intestine no digestion occurs. But what does the large intestine do? Means in that undigested food, if any water or if any important nutrients are still more present, means just it will be absorbing them and it will be storing it. So this all undigested food will be formed. Means here the large intestine also will be releasing one more enzyme called as mucus. So what is the use of mucus in this large intestine? Is that undigested food should be formed into a ball like structure. It should be folded together. All the undigested food should be folded together and it should be lubricated together. So for that process of the lubrication, this mucus will be present. So in the large intestine there is no digestion occurring. Only the undigested food that is present in the small intestine comes to the large intestine. After coming to the large intestine, here if in that undigested food, if any water content is present, it will be absorbed by the large intestine, and that undigested food all together it should be made into a one form, and it should be lubricated. That lubrication will be done by the process of the mucus. This large intestine will hold that waste material and it will be storing in the rectum. It will be storing in the rectum, and due to the help of the sphincter muscles, finally it will be expelled out of the body through the anus. It will be expelled out of the body through the anus. So that is the process happening in the digestion. So here first thing is we take the food. After taking the food, the process of digestion starts in the stomach. The process of digestion starts in the mouth, then it enters into the stomach, then small intestine, and then finally to the large intestine. Absorption of the food materials generally takes place in the small intestine because the small intestine is having the finger-like projections on its walls, and those are called as villi, that helps in increasing the absorption capacity of the small intestine. From the small intestine, all the nutrients will be mixed up with the blood. After the mixing up with the blood passes to the tissues, and there the tissues will utilize these nutrients for the energy, for the process of getting the energy, for the process of repairing, and for the process of the growth. After assimilation of these nutrients, finally the process of defecation occurs. Defecation starts with the large intestine. In the large intestine there is no digestion. Only the absorption of the water that is present in the undigested food will be done by the large intestine. All the undigested food will be entering from the small intestine to the large intestine, and this large intestine will be absorbing the water that is present in the undigested food, and it also holds that all undigested food together with the help of the lubricating enzyme, that is the mucus, and it will be storing it in the rectum. And here in this then from the rectum it passes to the anus and it will be expelled out of the body. Like that, here in our body the process of the digestion will be occurring. Okay, I think everyone has understood this topic. So if you like this video, please comment or please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.